Hi, guys. It's Kim. I am back from my week in Tennessee seeing Ken and Nisha, and they taught me this new thing. So I'm streaming live on both YouTube and Facebook. Tech. Hello. And I'm wearing my favorite new Target t shirt. It's got fancy sleeves. Love me a good Target t shirt sometimes. So I hope everyone out there is doing well. If you have questions, please question me about the question. Hey, Brandy, nice to see you here. I was reviewing photos. I had some photos taken for my website update. And I don't know, I say we, but I'm very hard on myself. So it was like when you look at the picture, you're like, oh, and then you start to like pick it apart. It's having that kind of a day. So I hope everyone is doing well. I am, as I said, back in Berkeley. Happy, happy, happy. Um, Maureen says, Pork King pork rinds for the win. I tried the white cheddar. When you say tried, I mean they ate the whole bag. You are welcome. I will tell you, I much prefer the pork panko pre-ground pork rinds in recipes. The Pork King brand pre-ground pork, so like a jar of pork rinds that are ground up, are very salty. And so that doesn't work if you're using it like to make a bread or something like that. So definitely go for the Bacon's Air brand for the pre-ground pork panko. But yeah, those their pork rinds, Pork King Good pork rinds are delicious. Very, very tasty. Super tasty. Great texture. I love a light fluffy. I mean, I also like a what do they call it? Now my brain just went blank. It's what they sell in the UK instead of pork rinds. They're hard. They've still got more fat attached and they're really firm. And now I can't remember what those are called. I would okay, but those are also good. But I always worry I'm going to break my teeth. Little secret, probably not a complete secret. I broke my front tooth when I was a kid, and so I have a little fill on the front of my tooth because wasn't a good look for me. And so I cracklins. Thank you, Gregory and Jackie. Yes, cracklins. Cracklins are hard. So you can chew them with your back teeth, that's fine. But I'm a little careful with my front tooth because it's not a good look, as I said. Anywho, never say I'm not transparent about all my foibles, right? Okay, so Kizzy DDD, Kizzy Triple D, says, please discuss higher fat or protein for weight loss. So, I mean, this is the constant discussion, right? Which is high fat, high protein. Right now, protein is definitely the darling of the keto world. And, some would argue, is that truly keto, not keto, whatever. So, but I'll discuss. So when I first went keto, which was a long time ago, a long time ago, I was definitely high fat keto. I found my early macros. I guess I had taken a picture of something in my Fitness Pal, and so it had sort of the macros in there. 66 grams of protein, and I'm basically 5'9". I one day I have to accept that I'm just under, but I'm calling it. I round up. 5'9" and 66 grams of protein, 150 grams of fat, and 20 or under grams of carbs. So that I would definitely call high fat. It's about, I think that works out to be like 8, if not 85% fat. It's very close. And so, but over time, I've increased the protein. Like first I increased it a little bit. I went from like 66 to 88, which was super duper. Really like that was much better, much healthier. 66, I think, is an unhealthily low amount of protein for somebody my height. And then from there, I experimented with all sorts of things. I did the thing that Ted Naiman was telling you to do before he came out with a PE ratio. I tried this, I tried that, I tried this other thing. I have tried all the things, except high carb. It just doesn't work. Well, I mean, I did that before, but it doesn't work for me. So generally speaking, here's what I say. There seems to be a small I think me start from the beginning. I think most people should do high fat and moderately high protein when they start keto. So you need enough protein. I don't think anyone should do low protein. Moderate protein is even probably too low. I think there's a podcast that just came out with Stu Phillips or Stuart Phillips. It's on the Diet Doctors podcast. It is very, very good about protein. I put it up in Keto Life Support, the group. But basically, it's like you don't quite need a gram of protein per pound of body weight, but somewhere close to that is probably a good thing to aim for. It can be maybe just a little under that. To simplify it. So I think everyone needs a good amount of protein. And from there, I think when you first start keto, you need a fair amount of fat to feel satisfied, to get fat adapted. And that's simultaneously with eating low carb. I heard somebody on a podcast today. Okay, I am a judgmental, bitchy person sometimes, I swear. But I was listening to this podcast and I was like, I can't listen to this podcast anymore. You know, when there's just somebody on it and you're like, oh, it's painful. And she was like, well, you know, she was doing like bulletproof coffee, but also juice. It's like, that is not keto. Anyway, fruit juice, not meat juice. Meat juice is keto. Anyway, so I digress. Yeah, basically, I'll tell you that right now, so I am what I would definitely call higher protein, lower fat. Like my macros are basically I'm back in a body fat losing phase, right? So my macros will be different depending on my goals. If I'm trying to maintain or I'm trying to lose body fat, they'll be different. And you can't just do one the whole time. You have to break it up. But right now I'm in more of a body fat loss phase and I'm eating around 60 grams of fat and around 150 grams of protein. So clearly a lot more protein than fat. It is more effective for me. It is more effective, not those exact numbers. You're not me, I'm not you. We're not going to have the exact same numbers. But the higher protein, slightly lower fat, notice that's not low fat. Low fat would be like 20 grams of fat, right? But lowered fat, higher protein, I find with most people who've been keto over a year, at least, maybe 6 months to a year or more, and are not losing the body fat they want, I think it's probably worth trying lower fat. But we all have a tolerance. Like I didn't drop directly to 60 from 150. I kind of worked my way down as I worked my protein up, or else you'll go cuckoo. Like it's crazy making. It's not easy. That point at which you really drop your fat down, you do feel a little hangry. But like I can tell you, which is weird, I was just in Tennessee with Ken and Nisha, who I love to death, and they eat amazing food, and we had a really good time, and we ate amazing food. But actually getting home, I was like, oh, I'm glad to get back to my food routine. I enjoy the food that I make at home. Although I was really enjoying the food I also made at their house. It was very tasty. I enjoy ribeye. I like that food. But it's like you get into your pattern, you get into your habits, and you start to like them after a while, and they start to suit you, right? So anyway, there was a question that I saw. Rita asked, when are y'all going to reveal that delicious looking recipe Nisha and I made? So I'm giving Nisha ownership of that recipe, but basically what I can tell you, if you want to play with it before it's published, the bread part is pork panko. Again, it matters which brand. We used pork. We tried it the first time with the other brand, not as good. Then we went to Bacon Zero brand pork panko. It's a mix of pork panko, some coconut flour and eggs, and baking powder. I think that's all that's in that bread. Oh, and Parmesan. That's what's in that bready part. And the middle part was cheese and broccoli, and then there was more. So we layered, but you fold the cheese into some bread mix in the middle to make it. But anyway, that's basically what's in it. So I think I have to communicate with her about when to get that up. It was a very simple recipe. Brandy says, if anyone doesn't know what you're talking about, when I was in Tennessee with Nisha, we made a bread recipe that she had said, I want to do a broccoli cheddar bread, and so that's what we did. I really think though that bread base of kind of the mix that I made that makes a bread is very low carb, obviously. Um, you could do all sorts of things with it. Go all. It's just like it's like the bread of frittata, right? The frittata you can do all sorts of things. It's bread base. You can do all sorts of things. Um, Brandy says, "What is considered high or moderate protein or fat?" That is a fabulous question, Brandy. And I should probably come up with some guidelines around that. But basically, high and low are relationships, if that makes sense, right? So if I were eating 100 grams of protein, but 200 grams of fat, well, the fat is higher than the protein. So I wouldn't call that high protein, call it high fat, right? But then if I were eating 100 grams of protein, but 20 grams of fat, well, that's high protein, low fat, right? So it's all relative. But I would say that protein is the constant. Like we all need enough protein. You don't need a full gram per pound of body weight, but that is or per pound of ideal body weight or goal body weight. But that is a great thing to aim for because what happens when you aim for that is it kind of blurs. It's like putting blinders on where you're focused on that and it kind of doesn't really leave room for some of the other mishigas that you might get in there. So anyway, but I'm in the process of writing a new macro video. So that hopefully will be up soon. Karen says, after being very successful on keto for 3 years, gained a black plus some. So Karen, what happened? Did you like fall off or were you just like, I'm doing the same things and the weight's just coming back? Or did you like head back to carb land? How did it all come back? Now I'm struggling for months to get back into the routine. Any thoughts of why it's so hard the second time around? So there's a few things that make it harder to lose weight the second time. One of which is it's the second time and you already had this experience and there's something called fatigue that happens. You're like, I did this before. Why am I doing this again? So there can be this underlying sort of psychological stuff that's going on there. The second is, in fact, when you lose weight and gain it back, it is going to be harder to gain it back because you have almost always gained body fat in a way that's going to make that harder and potentially maybe lost muscle mass in the last phase, which leaves you with a lower metabolic rate than you started with last time. So there's that. But I think more than anything, it's probably the psychological challenge. We're 3 years older than we were 3 years ago, all of us. And that's going to make it a little more challenging too. The loss of lean body mass that you probably experienced in that cycle, that's going to make it harder. Generally speaking, I would rather someone lose less weight slower over a longer period of time than more weight faster. The long-term success really matters. So regain is probably, not that I have to tell you, Karen, but regain is the thing you want to avoid more than anything else because so often, it's funny how often this happens, right? I'll say to somebody, I've lost close to 100 pounds. And then it's not always, but a lot of the time, somebody, if I'm in a group of people, at least one of them will say, how long did that take you? Like, I get a medal if I did it really fast. And the reality is, I don't want people to lose weight fast, usually. I mean, sometimes you just kind of accidentally, you're not even trying that hard and it comes off fine. But for the most part, when you slow that process down and you do it in a controlled fashion, it's less likely to come back on. And we really want that. The ultimate goal is not to lose weight. The ultimate goal is to maintain weight loss. 95% of people within 3 years, trust this with a grain of salt. This is the statistic I have read. All statistics should be questioned, but 95% of people seem to have gained back all or more of the weight they lost in a 3-year period. So everyone's goal should be, even if your goal was to lose 100 pounds and you only lost 50, but 3 years from now you still are down that 50 pounds, you are in the top 5% of the population at maintaining a weight loss that other people can't. So feel special. I'm sorry. I jump around on the questions and I have to go back. Fold the cheese. I now get that reference. I didn't I didn't get it before because I didn't watch the show, but it is funny. Okay. Um, Sally Joe says, "What way of eating could maybe change your hair color back to the natural color?" And, I have heard people say that keto changed their hair color back. I have no scientific data on that. Andrew says, "I was in a 9th-month stall. I need articulation lessons today. 9-month stall, gave up cream in my coffee. Scale is moving down again, 10 pounds. Wow. That's amazing, Andrea. I wonder if you were using a lot of cream or maybe you were a little dairy intolerant." Um, Karen says, "I dislike measuring everything, so that's why I love carnivore, but but losing body fat has slowed. I'm 56, had a hysterectomy, wonder if surgery is slowing me." Well, are you doing hormone replacement therapy after your hysterectomy? Because if not, yes. Yes, it will. Because you've lost if you're not doing any hormone replacement therapy, you're low on estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, all of that is not happening. That's going to affect your ability to lose body fat. Now, you still can lose body fat postmenopausal times, even without hormone replacement therapy. It is just a little harder. But generally speaking, I say, yeah, not weighing and measuring things. So, different personalities. I actually love weighing and measuring things. I get a little obsessive about it and I like it. I'm a little obsessive as a person and I'd rather obsessively track my macros than obsessively look for snacks. There's a guy out there. I feel him. He was like a really heavy actor who lost a lot of weight and he has a podcast. And he's not keto. He's actually was keto and is a little down on keto. So sometimes you're like, man, you just didn't do that, whatever. But he says, I love dieting, and he loves. I can't remember exactly how he says it, but he says he loves only 2 things more than acting: food and dieting. And and so I was like, I think I feel him. Kind of feel him. I think I took a lot of my food obsession and just moved it over into a healthier thing with tracking. But because for me, tracking helps me stay very conscious. And I think being conscious about your food is very helpful. But now, carnivore, in a way, also keeps you very conscious, right? Because you're very conscious about your ingredients. So whatever works for you. But I always tell people, Karen, if you're seeing the success you like doing what you're doing, keep doing what you're doing. If you're not seeing the success you like doing what you're doing, you have to change what you're doing. And first step for me is, if you're not tracking, you probably need to track for a while. You don't need to track forever, but you need some data, because how are you going to adjust the data if you don't have the data, right? So that's just what I think. Shelly said, "Can you elaborate on cold coffee? I heard you mention your live with Dr. Ken." Well, I think what I mentioned with Dr. Ken is that we both enjoy cold brew coffee. He has cold bottles of cold brew in his fridge. There were 2, and one of the companies I think is called Stoke, Stok. I hope I'm not giving away a secret. And it's delicious. It's cold brew coffee. I assume that's what we were talking about, if I can remember. Anyway, it's very tasty. It tastes. Hey, Debbie, how you doing? It tasted very sweet to me. Like, I actually had to look at the bottle. I was like, "This is very sweet coffee," and then unsweetened, indeed. But cold brew is very. Well, that was going to be a really bad grammar moment. Cold brew is much less bitter than other forms of coffee, so it's more palatable without sweetener or things in it. Herschel asked, "What do I eat for protein and fat?" So I can tell you what I've eaten today. I had my favorite breakfast that I do all the time: cottage cheese mixed with yogurt. I use 2% Good Culture cottage cheese. It's like the only brand I really love. I love it. I've had 2%. I've had the whole milk. I've had their double cream. They're all delicious, but the 2% works for me. And then the 2% Fage or Fage yogurt, which is a plain Greek yogurt. I mix those together. I put a few drops of stevia in there and then a little sprinkle of berries. It's my breakfast that makes me happy. And then for lunch, I had a bunch of chicken cold cuts, like lunch meat. I made a little wedge of it with an egg life wrap and dipped it in mustard. And I also had some salad. I made a salad. And then for dinner, which I haven't had yet, but I'm planning some flank steak and some more salad. I made like a big bowl of salad. I took some out. I'll have the rest for dinner. And then after dinner, I'm going to have a dessert of what am I having for dessert? I decided I was going to have a dessert. It's in my tracker. I think it's yogurt and berries, but it might be like a blendy yogurt. Like I think I was planning on blending yogurt and berries kind of to make like a little yogurt smoothie. Not a smoothie, but like a blended frozen yogurt kind of concept. That was my plan. So yeah, that was what I had and I'm planning to have for today. And it makes me happy. My body feels really good these days on that kind of an approach. And but we all have to find the thing that suits us the best. Do flavored teas like peppermint break a fast? Asked Andrea. I would say I don't think that they do. In terms of what breaks a fast, I mean, quite honestly, no one knows. We're all guessing. All of this fasting data is people guessing. I'm just going to say, like, what increases autophagy? It's mostly from rat studies and animal studies. We're just assuming it's the same. I'm not saying people are wrong, but if you're looking for like hard and fast answers about fasting and what does this do and what does that do and what's that do, like where we draw our lines are mostly like from one expert to another. I tell it to you straight. We're all just making our best guess because there's not real good data on that. So generally speaking, I would say if you're trying to fast for a period of time, keep the calories as close to zero as you can. Don't have sweet things if they increase your hunger, right? So some teas taste sweet to me, and they may or may not have stevia or they may have cinnamon or things like that that taste sweet. If those things stoke a feeling of hunger in you, they're probably not going to help you extend your fast. And then know what you're fasting for. Is it autophagy? Is it brain clarity? Is it fat loss? What's the point? Why do you think you're fasting? What's the goal of your fast? Knowing that might help you make the determination around what's the best where are you drawing your boundaries on fasting. Gina Gudui. Have you ever tried making Maria Emmerich's protein sparing modified fast bread? Yes. Yes, I have. I have made it twice, I think. Once was a dismal failure. No, I made it 3 times, twice successfully. Once I tried it with egg white, like a carton of egg whites, because I heard you could do it with it. And I've made meringues before, and I was like, you can't make a meringue with a carton of egg whites. And I tried, and I said, yeah, no, you can't. But then I found out from somebody else that it's brand to brand. Some brands will do it, and some brands won't. So then I was like, that's not safe, because I don't know which brands are right and wrong. So I did it with whole eggs that I separated. That worked great. I found it a little bit eggy tasting, but the next day it was better. That's usually true of things with egg in them. I found it very useful and it was good for a while. And then most of the time I don't quite feel like separating 20 eggs. But it looks great. People seem to be having real success with it. I make some bread recipes that also involve a lot of eggs, but not just egg whites. And so, yeah, I have made it though, to answer your question. Cindy says, and if a follow-up question often is, do I do protein sparing modified fast? I find I don't do as well on protein sparing modified fast approach, but as you see, I do a lower fat, higher protein approach. I just spread it out. So somebody might be doing, where I'm like 60 grams of fat most days, a protein sparing modified fast, I drop it like another 30. Then on my other days, I could go to 90 and it would balance out and basically be the same thing, but I prefer 60 than doing the 90-30. If that makes sense. Cindy says, examples of how to get that much protein in. Lean meat, because obviously if you have a piece of steak or a piece of meat of any kind, it's a combination of 3 things: fat, protein, and water. That's what's in there. Actually, water is the majority. So most of the weight is water, I think. And so that might not be true. Anyway. So you've got fat and protein and water. Water has no calories, right? Water has no nutrients technically, so you kind of ignore the water, but that's part of the weight of the meat. And then the other 2 variables you have is the fat and the protein. So the more fat it has, the less protein it has, the more protein. This is per weight, right? How per ounce, right? This has if this piece of meat weighs 4 ounces, there's only 4 ounces to play with, right? So fat goes up, protein goes down. So if you need more protein, it'll be easier to get in a smaller amount if you have leaner meats too. So you said it's tough without adding in protein shakes. The first thing I will say is when we tell people to aim for, like, I'm going to guess, Cindy, that your 140 pounds is probably like your goal weight or your ideal weight or your reference body weight. I will say it's okay to be a little under that. It's more about aiming for that. So if you have to do crazy things to get there, maybe evaluate that. But some great examples of whole foods that can help you get more protein into your meals are doing things like adding egg whites to your meal, adding Greek yogurt to your meal, adding shrimp to your meal. They're very low in fat, very high in almost all protein and water. Adding things like lean cuts of steak. Like instead of having a ribeye tonight, I'm having flank steak, which is much lower in fat, right? So for a 5 ounce piece of steak, I'm getting probably 25% more fat than I'm 25% more protein than I would get in a ribeye because it has so much less fat. As an example. So, and then give yourself time, Cindy. Just like bump it up every day. Think of, and then every meal, I'm thinking, how do I get more protein in this meal? Like, how do I focus my meal around protein if you're trying to do that? And so that is how I do it. I also have a rule just because I want to optimize muscle protein synthesis that I'm doing things like if I'm hungry enough to eat, I'm hungry enough to eat 30 to 50 grams of protein in that meal. And I'm going to do that. And if I eat 30 to 50 grams of protein in every meal 3 times a day, I'm going to get at least 90 to 150 grams of protein, usually more like 100 to 125, somewhere in there. And I'm like, oh, that's good. That's fine. I'm okay in there. Katie says, Kim, I am a bad diabetic. I'm sorry, Katie. Fell off the wagon for a minute. It's turned into 3 months. Gained back the weight. Need to get back on track. Okay, Katie. Talking to Katie right now and anyone else who needs to hear this. You can do this, but you have to do this. Your life is important. You need to get back on track. We need you in this world. And if you don't get back on track, people who love you will suffer. And you will suffer. And we don't want that. So let's get you back on track. So starting right away, throw everything away that doesn't support the way you want to eat. Now, because you're a diabetic, I'm saying this more than I would say to somebody else. Tell your family to deal with it if you're throwing their stuff away. If they would like to eat things that are going to kill you, they can do that outside of the house, but don't bring it in the house. Okay? If you can't do that, that's what I think you should do. If you can't do that, then at least keep it in their room or a different cabinet. Like, this is my cabinet. Don't put your stuff in here. I'm not going in that cabinet. I'm just using this cabinet. I'm just using this shelf of the fridge, right? If they won't support you in being alive, you don't have to support them in their addictions. All right. So that's first step. The second thing I would say is if you've already dinner time where you are, then tomorrow morning, when you're hungry, first meal, eggs, bacon, whatever you got. I mean, you might not have these things, but high fat, moderately high protein, low carb. Eat as much as you need to feel satiated. So no longer hungry, full. Then next time you get hungry, do the same thing. Don't worry about how much you're eating. Just worry about feeling satiated, not eating crap, eating low carb, eating good quality foods. Do that for several days until you're back on track. And then you can tweak the details, but just don't be super hungry. Eat the foods that you know are good for you. All right, Katie, keep us posted. I jumped again, so now I got to scroll back. Magic Me, I've been getting heartburn and reflux after it finally went away. What can I do? Keep a food journal and see if there's a trigger, like something you're eating that day before it comes up. Claire says, just brought magnesium glycinate, confused about how much I should take to help me sleep. Most bottles of magnesium are going to have dosage information on them. Take a day's worth, though the first couple days you can try half, but work your way towards a day's worth of magnesium, what it says on the bottle. So there you go. I can't tell you because it's usually around 400 milligrams is what that day's worth is, but I don't know how many pills there are for that because I don't know how big the pills are in your bottle and that kind of thing. That's just the RDA. So I'm not giving medical advice. I'm not a doctor. I was about to say I'm not a medicalician. I'm not in any way. I'm just telling you that's the RDA that I know. So Angela says, are Ken and Nisha as down to earth as they appear on YouTube? Love them both. Yes, indeed they are. They are some of my best friends in the world. They are very down to earth. They are hilarious. And so there you go. And Ken is getting that farm whipped into shape. He is doing so much work. He's working so hard. Anyway, he doesn't, yeah. Tea, made your frittata recipe. It was awesome. Added hatch green chili. Great idea. Great idea. Yummy. Tex-Mex. Kathy says, that's me. I've maintained 50 pounds, lost for 3 years. Get upset that I need to lose 50 pounds more, but also remember I haven't gained those 50 pounds back. Maintenance for me is at 18.6 IF and under 20 carbs. Weight loss requires near zero carb and extended fast. So do what you got to do to make it happen if you want to make it happen, but healthy is healthy. Andrea had to, oh, got it. You were doing a lot of heavy cream. Anna, I lost 20 kilograms in the first 3 months. The next 3 months, I've lost 2 kilograms. I don't care. Still have about 15 kilograms to go, but that's much better than where you were. If it drops at a half kilogram a month, I don't care. Good attitude. Okay, hold on. I have to have a sip. Audrey said, what are lipomas? Can keto dissolve them? Lipomas, as far as I understand, not being a doctor, are little pockets of fat. And I don't know. SJ, why am I having heart palpitations like crazy? I'm drinking Rosemary Light. Too much, too little. I don't know, but it is awful. 3.5 weeks into carnivore. Thanks, Kim. So heart palpitations are above my pay grade. They can obviously be very much a potassium, sodium imbalance. And so one thing I would say is Redmond's has pretty high potassium, and maybe your potassium to sodium balance is a little off. But heart palpitations, I would always check in with a doctor because they are not a sign of good things. They can be something really easy to fix, but rule out that there's something bad before you go there. Karen says, has Hashis. It will bring up. Okay. Judy says, I am on levothyroxine. Why is it so hard to lose weight? So levothyroxine is levo just T? Is it T? Now my brain just went blank. Is levothyroxine T3? Now this is where I Google on the internet. Googling, Dr. Google. Oh no. Okay. Levothyroxine is a generic form of T4. Okay, just checking because sometimes the names change. So levothyroxine is indeed just T4. So our thyroid gland is here. And so we make all sorts of teas, right? But T4 is converted by the removal of an iodine atom into T3. T4 is an inactive hormone. T3 is what our body uses. So if you have an error in the way your body converts T4 to T3, it's possible that even though you're supplementing T4, you're still hypothyroid because you have lots of T4, but your body can only use T3. So there you go. So I would definitely look at your free T3 levels and your reverse T3 levels to see if there's still a problem there. Ethan Sipley. Yep, Lisa, that's who it is. And so the second thing is I'm on Armor Thyroid, which is T4 and T3. I'm getting my thyroid is optimized. That's all going well. It's still hard for me to lose weight. For some of us, it is just hard. We are slow losers, but you can push that needle and make it happen. I lost 30 pounds last year, lost 60 pounds a couple years before that. It can happen, even with hypothyroidism, but it's just not crazy fast, and you have to do things. I was talking, so somebody messaged me today. So I don't know if you've ever spent any time with somebody who's much smaller than you, like my good friend Nisha Berry. She's petite, she's little. And so somebody emailed me today. I won't give names or anything. I don't want to breach any confidentiality, but it was basically like, how is Nisha lost so much weight on carnivore when she probably eats? We've talked about publicly that we eat about the same amount of food. And I should be able to eat a lot more, and I can't because I'm much bigger than her. She's just got a crazy good metabolism. And so one of the things that this person wrote me was like, well, why can she eat this all meat diet or this mostly, ketovore, mostly meat diet and be so thin? And I struggle so much. Her, the person writing me, struggles so much. And I said, well, I also struggle a lot, even on an all meat diet. I've done carnivore. And it's just harder for me to lose weight. And we just all have differences. We have different metabolic rates. We have different activity levels. We have different how much we move around. We have different how much energy our brain needs. And then there's genetics. Like Nisha's mom is equally thin. My mom less thin, right? Like, so we have a combination of factors that go on to make us just have different life experiences, different effects, all of that. And so, basically, we just have to deal with the hand that we've been dealt, right? Like, that's just the way it goes. And we have to optimize. And so, what I was saying to this woman today is like, yeah, eat an all meat diet, eat carnivore, fix your hormones, get healthy, get more metabolically healthy. At the end of that journey of doing all that, I mean, not that it ends, right? It's an ongoing journey, but you do that for a long time, you get in a much better position. Things are going much better. It doesn't mean you're going to end skinny. It just doesn't. We're all just different. And so if you want to get skinny or thinner, then your body kind of settled, there are things you can do. You can push the envelope. That's what I'm doing. Like, left to my own devices, my body would just be like, we are very happy bouncing around close to 200 pounds. I've been overweight since I was prepubescent. Like, my fat cells enjoy being engorged. And so I have to go to more extreme measures to maintain a lower body fat amount than somebody who, say, had been a thin child. And by me, I mean people like me, right? I am very self-absorbed, but I'm trying to talk to the people like me. So, so somebody who was a thin child, thin teenager, thin young adult, they may have gained 30 or 40 pounds after pregnancy during a health problem, whatever, then they were a thinner, so like there's sort of a difference. One is not better, one is not worse. They're just going to be different experiences. And so if you're having issues losing weight and you're already kind of optimizing in terms of metabolic health and hormones, well, then you got to push the needle in different ways. And so that's what I do. It's like nobody was supposed to, I don't think. I don't think most women aren't naturally going to look like a fitness competitor, right? With like visible muscles and six-pack abs and 12% body fat, like, the shows where they get in little bikinis and they get up on stage, the fitness shows. Most, like, that is not a sort of natural body type for most people. Now, there are some people that are just genetically like that, but it's a very small percentage, right? And so, but people look like that. More people look like that than naturally fall into that category because they push. They do things. They show up at the gym every day. They do extra things, right? So you can continue to manipulate your body if you want to. No shame in that game. I'm doing it, right? I'm doing things that are more manipulation than where my body would naturally show up just eating healthily. That's just the way it goes. Kim, I've been slow and steady 3 years, clean keto, now mostly carnivore, 56 and smaller now than I was at 11. Well, that's fabulous, Kim. That is delightful. I'm happy. I'm really happy for you. Dawn, if I had a hysterectomy but still have one ovary, should I do hormone replacement therapy? Generally speaking, one ovary can do the job as far as I know, but you might want to get your hormone levels checked. Susie, I incorporate intermittent fasting with keto about 3 times a week. Is this enough IF to make a difference? I guess, is a question I'd ask you, Susie. Are you seeing the results you want? If you're seeing the results you want, then the answer is clearly yes. If you're not, then I would ask, well, what needs to change to get you more of what you want? RB, Raquel. Hey, Raquel. Southern California. Found you through Nisha. Do I ever give seminars in Southern California? I don't. I haven't, but I have to get down there. I'll get down there. I've been to, but you know where you should go? Low Carb USA is having a conference in August in San Diego. So I don't think I'm gonna go to that one, but it will be a good time. Hey, Paula. All right. Kathy says, hey, San Antonio. Wish someone on the tube would talk keto carnivore for seniors. Yeah, absolutely. Ken Berry is a little older than me, just a little. We're like siblings, right? I have to goad him about that. So, at some point, he might be considered such a thing. He certainly treats seniors or has in his past. So I certainly think he could talk about it. He's going to be so mad that I said that. Not the second part, the first part. All right. Rhonda, how can you set up a consultation with me? Well, that's delightful. Thank you. You can email me, kim@theketonist.com, and I will respond to your email. Lana, I did keto for 31 days. Is that normal? And I didn't lose any weight. I would say that a lot of people have to stick with it, Lana. And I don't know. I'm 97% that I was doing it correctly. So I don't know if you were doing it correctly. So there's keto, right? There's the umbrella of keto and doing keto correctly. And then there's the way your body needs you to do keto. So for some people, they start keto, they get over the carb cravings, they get through, they get adapted. They don't see much weight loss until then. Then they start to tweak it. And then things get better. So 31 days is a really short period of time, Lana. So I would say stick with it and tweak it to make it work for you so that you start to see success. I don't know what your macros were. I don't know what you were eating. I don't know any of that. So I don't know. Paola, I love drinkable yogurt. It's very popular in Ecuador. So I grew up making it. Try blackberry pulp without the seeds, non-fat fudge, a little coconut milk. That sounds delicious. Lana says, also never got that full of energy, no sugar cravings, all very low appetite. Beth says collagen, but I don't know what that's in reference to. Sorry, I kind of have amnesia about the questions that came before. Ligia, how much heavy whipping cream in a day is too much? So that depends. If you're dairy intolerant, any is too much. For me, I just found I was better off without it. It just adds up too fast, and I'd rather eat my fat than drink my fat for the most part. So I put a little bit of a little bit of nut pods and a lot of almond milk or hazelnut milk or insert nut milk here. That's a little leaner in my coffees these days. But some people do great with heavy cream, but I would say pretty much if you're doing more than a tablespoon per cup of coffee and you're having more than 2 or 3 coffees a day, you might be pushing the envelope a little bit on heavy cream. Now, when I first started keto, I was putting like a 1/4 cup of heavy cream in every coffee. And so that was really good for me at the beginning because it got me over my desire to eat all the pastries in the pastry case at Starbucks. So you do what you have to until you can do better. So no shame in that game. Rochelle, do I need to weigh the steak before I cook it to gain knowledge of the nutrition? So I generally find that weighing the steak before I cook it gives me a better understanding of what its macros are because I have a better Because if you think about it, remember how I said water is in meat? So a rare steak versus a well done steak. I know a well done steak is an abomination, but those if you started with a 12-ounce steak raw and then you cook it a lot and it's 10 ounces, or you cook a little and it's 11 ounces, you're getting the same nutrition. You got the same fat, you got the same protein, just the water has changed. But if you weighed it after it was cooked, you wouldn't really know that, and you would think you were eating less than you were when it's just dry. Um, but if it's already cooked and your only way to weigh it is after it's cooked, then weigh it after it's cooked. It's better than guessing. I still weigh and measure my food most of the time. 5 years keto and I do it. Scrolling back because I jumped again. Nicole, I have chronic migraines. I take supplements. I'm keto for 7 months, quit dairy, read an article about eggs. Should I stop those too? I would say maybe do a month without eggs and see if they're better. And that's my advice about almost anything, right? How do you do with dairy? Take it out for a month, see if it's better, then slowly reintroduce it. Did it get worse again? So that's my advice on almost every ingredient like that. Hey, Houston, Rita, how do you cook your flank? Because it's a tough piece of meat. Yes, it is. So number one, thing I would say is if you're going to use leaner meats, make sure to get a meat thermometer, because overcooking meat is the worst thing. It's like moderately bad with a high fat piece of meat. It's terrible with a lean piece of meat. And I just mean from a taste perspective. So I barely cook it. I do my flank steak pretty rare. So I'll do a really hot pan, season my steak with salt, hot pan, cook it for like 2 minutes on one side, 2 minutes on the other. Stick a meat thermometer in there. If it's 115 degrees, I'm good with that. That's definitely rare. Some people start rare like at 120, 125. So, but I go for 115. It'll go up about 5 more degrees as it rests. So then I'll just take it off, and that's good enough for me. I slice real thin, and I like it. Lynn, anyone else experienced that they switched your protein to fish, gained salmon and trout were my picks? Don't know. That's interesting. Joseph, where are the questions coming from? I'm a new subscriber. Right where you put your, I'm glad. Thank you for subscribing, by the way, everyone. If you would subscribe to my channel, I would love that. Right how you did it. I'm just reading them as they come through. Ken says, hey, Kim, I feel a passion and desire for helping people like you do. Absolutely. Any advice for an aspiring health coach? So Ken, I would say, get out there and talk to people, just like I'm doing now. Start a Q&A, start doing lives. If you're an in-person kind of person who's not a hermit, go out in the world and talk about it. Get your voice out there is just the number one thing. Work on posts on Instagram, work on videos on YouTube. Just get out there and get your information to people. That's what you got to do. And then always seek more training. So right now I'm taking a class, I'm enrolled in 2 different courses right now about advanced blood work and health coaching topics. And so always keep just trying to learn more. I reinvest almost everything I earn in courses. I'm a terrible business person. But I'm always trying to get more knowledge. Ashley says, hi, Ashley. I know your mom. My mom has been keto for 3 years, lost 120, and lately magnesium keeps her up. So she's taking magnesium at night and it's keeping her awake, or is that it? T, sounds like you're doing great. Sandra, hi from Cypress, Texas. I have been stuck for a while, just joined the wait list. Can you share the timeline for the Unstuck program? So by the way, I have a program called Keto Unstuck to help people get unstuck. And this week I'm announcing the opening. We're opening up next week. So very soon is the timeline. I work with a group of people who, like me, were stuck for a long period of time on the techniques that get them out of being stuck. Mikos says, in your own journey, thank you for the compliment. Did I have a goal weight in mind, or did you just choose to let the diet get you to weight? Does that make sense? Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Mikos. which is, I think when I first started, I think this happens to a lot of people, right? When I first started, I was like, if I could just get under 200 pounds, that'd be great, right? And so I think that was good enough. And then I got close to 200 pounds. I was like 180. I think I'll look perfect at 180. And then I got there and I was like, I still think maybe 15 more pounds, right? So we have, so I kind of had some goals, but I just kept pushing the needle. But ultimately, when I got to sort of a more reasonable to me body weight, I had gotten a DEXA scan before that was just horrifying. I got another DEXA scan, and then I actually took out a spreadsheet and calculated if I don't gain much muscle mass, right? It's harder to gain muscle mass, but if I gain some muscle mass, because I do lift weights, and like if I gained a reasonable amount of muscle mass this year, how much body fat would I have to lose to get to 25%, 30%, right? 25, like in 27, 26, kind of like calculate in there. And that kind of told me what I would need to weigh to be that body fat percentage. And so then I can use that to sort of aim at, if I want to, like in an educated way rather than just throwing it out there. Because I do see some clients saying things that don't make sense. They say things like, I would like to weigh 140 with a body fat percentage of 25%. And I'm like, what's your body fat? And if I do the calculation and I realize to make that happen, they would have to gain like 20 pounds of muscle, which is unlikely in a woman, in a short period of time without a lot of effort. And so you have to do that based on some reason. But, you know, I think it can be a loose goal until you get into close capacity. I talk a lot and my throat gets dry. Velvet says, are protein shakes an acceptable source of protein? Not my favorite. So I would say I would rather you use a protein shake than be super deficient in protein if it's the only option. However, I would say it's not the only option for most of us. But if you had like your jaw wired shut, great option. Just had surgery, great option. So there are times when they come into play, but I really want to see people getting their protein from whole, real foods most of the time. There are a couple of reasons why. The first of which is, think about a protein shake, right? So they extract the protein out of food. So it's just protein, literally just protein. Whereas if you had a piece of meat, it's got B12 in it, it's got carnitine, it's got all the vitamins and minerals, right? Like, so it's got all sorts of things that are good for you in that, whereas this is just protein in the shake, right? So it's not the same. Also, protein shakes don't get that high thermic effect. So you don't absorb all of the calories and protein from whole food sources. You do from a shake. Different, because your body has to work harder to process it. But like I said, there are circumstances in which it might be necessary. I would rather see somebody getting the protein they need, at least in that general vicinity, than not. But I think you should try harder for most of you to get it, from whole, real food sources. Thank you, Rita, who likes the color of my shirt. Oh, Karen said, Kim, do you IF? By the way, if I miss a question, just ask it again and I'll hopefully see it the second time. Yes, I do. I don't push it. I don't work real hard at it. It kind of happens naturally. So I don't eat after dinner. So I'll have dinner and then dessert. If I have dessert with dinner, it's kind of in that same 1 hour window. Then I won't eat after that. I don't snack at night after my eating window closes. And then I don't eat first thing in the morning. So I do have an overnight IF. But at this point, that's more like 14 to 15 hours. I don't work hard to make it 16, but sometimes it is. Just depending on what my day looks like, what time I went to bed, what time I wake up, how hungry I am, when. I don't work real hard. I do think we need an overnight digestive rest. So I think that needs to be at least around 13 hours. And it's always naturally around at least that much, or longer. So. But I used to do 2 meals a day. Now I do 3 meals a day. I like it better. I'm happy. Things go well. I'm good with it. We all have to find our balance. I don't snack. I do not snack. I mean, I say that like, yeah, like if I'm at a dinner party on Christmas, the week of Christmas and there are like hors d'oeuvres out, I might have an hors d'oeuvre. Like I'm not saying I'm gonna explode or like the Wicked Witch if I have a snack, but like I plan my life so I don't snack, right? Um, Come visit athletes. Okay, I'll come down south. Pam says I only have a quarter of an ovary. Now I'm 49. I only needed estrogen for about 3 months and have held my own since. So I mean, so hey, ovaries are fabulous things, and apparently they can work even if there's only part of them. Joanne says my last TH was 0.01. Is that too low? I would think so. Not being a doctor, I would say that's pretty darn low. Now, I will say that if you're on medication, like you're somebody that takes medication, sometimes your TSH can be suppressed in a way that's not a problem, but that's pretty darn low. Mary said, I lost you after you said you are an armor. Can I repeat? Gosh, I'm trying to remember. Pala's laughing about me saying that Ken is older than me. I got to give him a little crap, I'm on armor. What was I saying? I'm on armor and it's going very well, I think is what I was saying. But I still have to work hard to lose body fat. Okay, what else did I miss? Krista appreciates my common sense approach. I appreciate that. Thank you. Oh, you're near me, Gail. I'm in Berkeley. All right. I'm sorry, guys, if I missed some. We're running out of time, so I want to see if there's anything important. Noreen says, where is Kim reading the questions from? Oh, so Noreen, I'm on something called StreamYard. So it's pulling questions because I'm going live on both YouTube and Facebook. And so it's pulling the questions in from both places. So you won't see all the questions because they're both from Facebook and from YouTube simultaneously. I've got like a third party filming thing that pulls both questions in, which means I might miss some questions. So hopefully that explains it. All right. Julie says, hi, Kim. I've been doing keto for about 27 months. Originally lost about 110, have regained 20 pounds. Haven't changed my macros. Help. Okay, Julie, we don't have a lot of time because we're wrapping up, but I will say what I had to do to lose weight again is I had to do something called a reverse diet. I have information on this channel and on my podcast, which is called Keto Life Support. So if you want to do some research, you can go there. But I had to take some time off from trying to lose weight. I had to consciously eat more for a while because my metabolic rate was like bare bones bottom, very low. I had to get my body used to eating more food for a while. And then I attempted fat loss again and was successful. So I had to go through a process. And I teach that process in my class, Keto Unstuck, but you don't have to sign up for the class to learn that. I give it away as well. It's just if you want it kind of packaged and organized, the class does it. But if you look for reverse dieting on my podcast, I talked about it on several podcasts. So you can go down that rabbit hole a little bit. All right. So hopefully that gave people some of what they needed for tonight. I hope everyone is going to have a really good week. I will be back next week. So take care, everybody. Bye-bye.